3 up, 2 across, tap that play button 3 times, and walk through the archway into Dialogue Alley. Hello, and welcome to Dialogue Alley, a podcast about Harry Potter books, book translations, and all other things magical. I'm Erik.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Melanie.
And the 3 of us are Harry Potter book translation collectors. What does that mean? Well, I'll tell you. It means that we collect Harry Potter books from all over the world because the ones we grew up with just weren't enough for us and we needed more. So we have books from places such as Japan,
And France.
Greenland.
Nepal,
Iceland.
Israel.
Luxembourg,
Faroe Island.
Everywhere. Let's just sum it up.
Oh,
with
man.
everywhere.
I was going to end it
All
by
of them.
saying Canada. And Canada.
The end.
So the 3 of us collect Harry Potter books from all over the world. There's so many cool things about collecting Harry Potter books from around the world, and we're going to talk about just that on this episode. So if this is the first time that you're listening to us, welcome aboard. We are so glad to have you here. If it's the 400th time that you've listened to us, that's pretty crazy because that's more episodes than we have actually put out. This is season 4, episode 15, which means you are double or triple dipping on some of those episodes, which is also okay. You can listen to us as much or as little as you choose. So I think based on what we just said, that's kind of who we are and what we do. And our show, we're going to have some news today. We're going to have a main segment where we talk about some of our favorite books. And as always, we have our favorite segment, at least my favorite segment. I just used our, like, I'm just putting words into your mouth. It's the translation of the show where we do a deep dive into one of the books in our collections. And we do one of my favorite things, which is smell the book. And I think that is a lot of people's favorite part of actually that section is smelling the book. So let's kick this off with the news segment. All right, so this week, season 4, episode 15, we have some pretty big news to announce.
I'm like crying a little bit.
You're crying? Don't cry. Don't cry for me, Argentina. All right. So our news this week is pretty big. We are actually entering into a new partnership or new collaboration with one of our great friends and fellow collectors. And you might know him because he was on the show like 2 episodes ago. And it's Peter, the Potter Collector.
Woohoo!
Hooray!
Hooray!
Peter just like sitting here quietly, like just waiting for the perfect moment.
Surprise!
Surprise! So we are so excited about this, and you're probably wondering, what does this mean? Well, we will tell you what this means. So first of all, Melanie.
It means that I think the biggest part of it is that we are becoming the Potter Collector official podcast. Like that's what we are going to be doing going forward, which is the craziest thing ever. And I think when this podcast was just an idea in all of our brains years and years and years ago, way before we even started recording, like this was something that we always wanted it to be and the direction we've always wanted to go. And so it's just such a big deal. I'm so excited about it.
I'm so excited too. It's exciting to just kind of expand the Potter Collector as a whole. And I can't think of any other podcast to do that with than Dialogue Alley. So, okay. So, all right. So Mel, so tell the story. So we were at Toothsome's Emporium at Universal Studios. You were going to Disney. I was going to Universal. We're like, we have to meet up. So we went for dinner, and then you just brought up the idea. And I was like,
Well,
100% yes.
yeah, this was something that the 3 of us have kind of been like, toying with like what our perfect scenario would be for the longest time and how we could hit our ideal niche audience. And that's something we'll talk a little bit more about in our main segment. But what we do as translation collectors is very niche, but our community is just so rock solid and so cool. And this is like the dream come true for us that we're going to be hitting and getting to talk about some of our favorite things with more people in this community, and we are just so excited about it. So yeah, I just like kind of brought up the idea to Peter, which on behalf of Erik, Carly, and myself, and Peter was just like, okay, why didn't you tell me about this sooner? I was like, I don't know, we were nervous.
No, I was actually I was honored that you guys even thought of this and thought of me and wanted to be a part of the Potter Collector. Like I was honored. I was honored. It was just I was very, very excited. We should talk to your listeners, your veteran listeners, about what to expect. Basically, nothing's going to change. Everything's going to be the same. Dialogue Alley, as you know and love, is going to be the same. I'll be on episodes here and there. I'm not going to be a permanent host, but I'll be a guest host more often, as long as you guys will have me.
Whenever.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
We'll have to take a vote, actually.
Okay, take it.
Kidding.
On each episode, vote whether you want
to
me on there or not.
We'll have to spin the wheel of chance, the chance wheel.
One of the things I'm really excited about is, one, this is going to bring a new group of listeners to you guys from the Potter Collector channel, but it's also going to bring back kind of a full circle moment of how the Potter Collector channel and the Potter Collector started, and that was books, book collecting, translation collecting, rare book collecting, and this is the perfect way to do that. So I'm excited for the people who maybe didn't know that there was even a book collecting community or market to learn more about that and learn about that through you guys and myself, and as when I join you guys. So it's just a really cool partnership on both ways, both sides of the aisle, for you guys and for the Potter Collector as a whole. So thank you for allowing this to happen.
We're so excited. And I think we should also add that, you know, things about Dialogue Alley that have been going on since, I don't know, for the past few years that we've established this podcast are still going to continue. So our Patreon is still the same. Our Discord is still the same. But something that's going to be added is there's going to be a tab for Dialogue Alley on the Potter Collector Discord, which I think is so cool. So if you have direct questions for the three of us, you can have access to it there. Or you can continue supporting us on Patreon, and then you can have access to our specific Discord. But it's just, you're right, Peter, like the full circle moment, the bringing everything together moment is just something I'm so excited for. I can't wait to see it all pieced together.
And another thing is so you get, Instagram updates when a new episode is posted from Erik and Carly and Mel and the Dialogue Alley Instagram. But now you're going to get one more notification if you're following the Potter Collector channel on Instagram. So you have no excuse to not listen to new episodes.
Unless you look at the topic and you're like, nah. which you're allowed to do also. But I think personally we talk about very enjoyable things on a every other week basis.
I would agree.
And one other thing I think that is really exciting about this new collaboration is that I know that, Peter, you do a lot of videos now that are not specifically about book collecting. You have in the past, but you have so much more to offer on your channel. You talk about merchandise, you talk about traveling, you talk about wands, you talk about going on a cruise with your brothers, and remodeling your house. So I think what a really an exciting part for me as a collector, not only as a host of the podcast, but as a collector, this was something that I would have wanted, like constant news updates every other week about kind of what's new in the collecting community, or what translations are new, or what translations are getting harder to find. We have a really, really great team of people in our Discord, in our community that are on top of things from all over the world that, bring things up to us. And we'd like to make sure that that news gets shared to people that care about it. So I think that's a really cool, just way to stay current in the collecting market.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Discord. So if anyone is watching this video on the Potter Collector channel, or is listening and you're directly from the Potter Collector channel and you're new to Dialogue Alley, Dialogue Alley also has a Discord. You can check the description down below in the video. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't check the description. Actually, it's probably in your description down below.
We usually do put it in our description for the podcast.
So there you go. You can find the Dialogue Alley Discord in the description down below. And again, as I think, Mel, you were mentioning that you've got a great community of people on that Discord who just collect Harry Potter books, and it's also a good place to throw out I'm looking for this particular book, or if you have questions, great place for that. And then there will, again, as Mel mentioned, there will be a tab for Dialogue Alley on the Potter Collector Discord, so you can also reach Erik, Mel, and Carly and myself via that tab.
And something about our Discord that's really cool is that frequently people will sell translations that they have. So Carly, I know that you are selling quite a few things right now. So if you're looking to get in on the translation collecting, or even just Harry Potter collecting in general, like sometimes I think that people go, hey, I don't need all these translations. But Peter, we talked last time you were on about like the Swedish book 1. You don't need to collect translations to own that as a Harry Potter fan and go, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
As a Harry Potter fan, this is so cool to have in my house on my shelf, showing off to people. So you don't have to get everything, but there are lots of really, really cool items that you can find. So Carly, what are you selling off here?
I have a few English, US and UK English Harry Potter books for sale, and they're marked by like English versus translation, so you can find them. And I have a lot of translations on there right now, and more to come. So,
good place
and that's
to get
all
started.
theprettybooks.net, right?
correct. Yeah.
Cool.
But there's also a book that you probably don't want to buy. And Peter can tell us about that.
Yeah, so I didn't talk to you guys about this. This all happened really recently, and I'm going to be doing a full video on the Potter Collector channel about this book, because I want to get this info out there to save someone else from potentially purchasing this book. So back in 1997, J.K. Rowling visited a class at the Strathblane School for I believe it was a 6th grade class. Their teacher had acquired an uncorrected proof of Philosopher's Stone, and then invited J.K. Rowling to come and read for the class. And she came and signed books for that class. So there were probably, who knows how many kids were in the class, maybe 30 plus kids who received a signed copy. And it was a 5th printing copy. All known Strathblane signed books were 5th printing paperbacks of Philosopher's Stone. So the final paperback version that had the Wendy Cooling quote on the bottom. And also, all of the Strathblane signed books that are known had a stamp on the opposite side of the front wrappers that said Strathblane School. And then the signature was signed on that very first page, a 1997 signature. So the rarest version of J.K. Rowling's signature. So I knew of 3 Strathblane copies. One was sold by someone who you will hear about again. We'll call him Bob. Another one was sold to a collector for very close to $12,000 recently. This was just a couple weeks ago. And then I own the 3rd. So this collector had purchased the book, and mine was also available for sale because I didn't need 2 97 signatures in my collection. So I had, long story short, I found a buyer. This person was going to purchase it, ended up having to pull out of the sale. So I was going to offer the book to someone else. The thing is, the collector who purchased the book for almost $12,000, it was a 3rd printing, which was confusing to me, because we knew that all Strathblanes were 5th printings. So before I offered my copy to this other collector, I was thinking more about it. I'm like, okay, well, I can't really charge 12 grand for my copy because it's a fifth print versus a third print. So technically the third print is more rare, even though they were kind of signed at the same time. And then it just clicked. I recognize that signature in the third printing book. I recognize that signature. So I did a little email search and found that the original owner of the book, well, let's say allegedly, we'll say they allegedly took the signature page out of the fifth printing book, and they were trying to sell it as a first print signed book. So they put it inside of a first printing of Philosopher's Stone, remove the Strathplane board or covers and everything. I had confronted them about this back in 2015 and had side-by-side photos of the signature. And long story short, they must have forgotten that it came from a fifth printing, because then they put the signature into a third printing book and then sold it to this collector. So long story short, it's already a long story. The collector got their money back. The dealer who sold it to the collector got their money back. And the book is now back in the hands of the person who this all started with. But I want to make sure that anyone who, if this book comes up again, even as a fifth printing, if they put it into a fifth printing book, this signature page has been moving around a lot. So I want to bring that to everyone's attention. And Dialogue Alley, I'm hoping you guys will be able to post the signature on your Instagram. I'll be posting the signature on my Instagram, so that we can kind of get people familiar with this signature. So if it pops up again, okay, this signature isn't original to this particular book. And what's crazy is the signature itself is worth a ton of money. I mean, if they took the page out and framed it, they could easily get $5,000-$6,000 for just that signature alone. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up. And again, I'll be doing a full video of about this and sharing more about that story. But crazy stuff. I'm just glad I had that documentation and those records of that. So it saved someone 12 grand.
That's so upsetting when that happens.
It is so upsetting.
But good on you. It's just upsetting.
What's, I think, like wild about a story like that is I feel like we talk so much on here, especially about constant vigilance, making sure you're checking the authentication of your signatures. We specifically will refer our audience to Peter, to Carly, and to Adam, who has a specific website where people can use to authenticate signatures. But what's crazy about this is the case of an authentic signature. And it's just a matter of having the knowledge about this particular very specific story that this book falls into. And I just think in general, the moral of the story is if you're about to pay like $12,000 for a book, you better be doing research to make sure that it is exactly what it's supposed to be.
And it's intact. And it's more than just, like Melanie said, it's more than just making sure the signature is authentic. When you're dealing with that much money, there's a lot of things that can be faked, right? There's so many things that can be faked.
Well,
so
and
it doesn't just have to be the signature. Go on.
I think that's one of the cool things about Adam's website, the HarryPotterSpecialist.com, is that when he offers the certificate of authenticity, but also the collector card that gives more provenance to the book, like where it started and how it came to him, and then how it is coming to you now. Because like in this book that Peter just described, that's a big part of what makes that particular book a collectible item. It's not just that it's a signed copy of an early printing of a book. It's a very specific signed copy from an event that had limited books signed at that event. And like that in itself is a really cool part of the story. Even if she didn't sign it and people that went to that event got a copy of the book, and there was only this many given out at the event. That's still really cool too. Like, you want to know that it's not just, this is a book, it's signed, here you go. That's the
Right.
reason why, if you look at what signed Harry Potter books go for, it's not, they don't all just sell for the same amount of money. There's differences just even within the signed books, how many of these
So
were
many.
signed, where they were signed, how many of those copies were signed, what the signature
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah.
Was it an early signature? Was it a middle career signature? Was it a more recent signature? So there's just so much
Yeah.
to it that people who actually collect these and want to have them as like a showstopper in their collection, they care about that. It's not just like, here it is, I got one, put it in a display case. We want to know more about that, which is really why I like that collector card that Adam offers in his service that you can even have alongside the book that
Yeah.
really gives that entire story to go along with it. So yeah, like you
I
said,
think
Peter,
it's
the signature
excellent.
itself is worth a lot, but like having it with the book it comes with, or it's supposed to come with, makes the value ever more higher. Like, it's just, that adds such a coolness factor to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was 100%, and yeah, it was devastating for this collector. They weren't. This is a dream of theirs, a 97 signature, and then to have it taken away.
And a Strathblane.
Yeah,
and that just makes my stomach hurt. But I'm glad it was rectified.
When the light bulb went off in my head, I did text Adam right away, and I was like, oh my goodness, Adam, told him the info about it, because he was doing a certificate of authenticity for the book, and then going to send it along with it, and the signature was authentic, and I thought, oh well, I guess a third print slipped through. He thought, well, I guess a third print slipped through. It was the first that we had seen of this. We thought we knew of 3 copies. It ends up that it went down to 2 copies, because I thought this person had one, the new collector had one, and I had one. Well, the 2 are one. Now there's, I guess, not one. Now there's just one that I know of that's in a collection. But so told Adam right away and texted him. It was like 4 or 5 in the morning, and he, I guess, woke up by it, and so I felt bad. But then he responded, so I just called him right away, and we were just talking.
That's a really hard thing to catch, even, because you have to know. It's just a lot. Gosh.
But that's honestly, though, that's what I think is so cool about this community, is that sometimes it takes more than one person with, more than one bit of information to put something together to make sure that at the end of the day, everything is how it should be. Or if there is something that raises a flag with one person, it's worth finding out why it raises a flag with that person. Like, well, it looks legit to me. Like, why do you think it's not? And I think oftentimes, especially on social media, it turns into more of like an argument than it should be, versus someone's casting doubt on this. I should do some more research and find out for sure if it's legit or not. Because I mean, that's all it would take for me. If one person was like, I don't think that's legit, I'd be like, okay, well, I need to confirm that it is.
Right. I agree.
So at the end of the day, that's what we wanted. We want to make sure that everyone collects what they want to collect and is happy and spends their money on things that are legitimate.
Yeah, I agree.
All this talk about books and what's real and what's not, and why do we know what we're talking about? That's a great question. And we can tell you more about that in our main segment, which is kind of a revisiting of who we are and what we do and why we do it.
Can I just say you guys are the masters of segues? Like, in the last show, Mel. In the last show, Mel had one that I was like blown away by. Oh, the dragon. It was like the dragon or something, or Goblet of Fire. It was like, oh my gosh, that was so good. And now Erik is like blowing them out of the water. So Carly, you're next with a brilliant segue.
I do them sometimes, but I shock myself as well as everyone else.
Yeah.
I'm not good with segues personally.
I'm usually too literal, and I don't do well with them.
Carly is the Ron Burgundy of our podcast, where
Yep.
she reads word
know.
for word what's in the notes. Otherwise, like deviating from that, like it catches us all off guard a little bit too. But
Yeah.
it's refreshing. It is
Y'all should
refreshing.
have seen my PowerPoint presentations. The notes were insane because it was
Geez Louise.
verbatim.
Perfect. So as Erik mentioned, which I think what's funny about what he just said is the who we are and what we do. That's what it usually says in our notes in every single episode is us describing who we are and what we do. So
Uh-huh.
we're actually gonna like talk a little bit about that for our main segment today. So I think the first thing that we should just address very like briefly is just something I mentioned before is just how niche our community is. When all of this started, there were the four of us that are having this conversation right now and on this podcast. And then there were maybe like four or five other collectors that were part of this community that we know of. There was Sean from Potterglot, there's Sean McAllister. We have a friend Xander who was collecting with us from the very beginning as well. And maybe there's like two or three others that we knew of because of Instagram, but that was really it.
Carolina from Poland
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's what
also.
I mean. That's what I
Yeah,
mean.
like
Like
didn't really know about her, but she was doing it.
we
Like,
just
Yeah.
we just knew of people at that time, but in that same breath, it was such a tiny group of us, and getting books at that point was so hard because we didn't have this huge community of people that were all doing this thing, and we're all doing it together now. I think that that's what's so cool about our Discord, and I don't mean to like keep bringing our Discord up, but we have so many resources now that I remember just sitting there on my computer. I'm like, okay, I'm going to dedicate the next hour to looking for books. I'm going to open up Google Chrome. I am going to have Google Translate going. I'm going to be going to these foreign websites, and I'm going to be hopefully spending my money on books that are hopefully going to show up to my house. And that was how a great chunk of my collection showed up. Because that's how it was done back in the day. But now there's so many people that know so many people that's, hey, I'm getting a bulk order of these books. The new Croatian translation just dropped. I'll just buy 10 and send them off to whoever wants them. And it's made my life a whole lot easier because, as I mentioned in like, I think it was the episode with Peter that we just did, like, I kind of like let the laws of like physics bring the book to me. I have not been going out of my way to get Harry Potter books. But yeah, I just think that this community is just so cool. The translation collector community has gotten so much bigger, even though it is still this niche little nugget. So that was
what
just like
what
the
I want
first
to add to
thing I have
that
say about
though
it.
is that what makes this niche community very accessible still is that it's whatever you want it to be. There's no standard set of like rules or collecting criteria. It's whatever you want it to be. You can collect whatever you want to collect. You can collect one book, you can collect all the translations, you could collect just the unique art, you could collect only Mary Grand Pré art. Like, you can collect languages that you speak. You can collect languages that are written from right to left. Like, you can do whatever you want to make it your collection, and no one's going to
Mhm.
judge you for that. And I think that's the really awesome part about our community is that whatever your book collection is, that's fantastic, and we're here to support you in your collecting journey. It's not like, oh, like Beanie Babies, for example, right? It was like, I need them all, and you don't have
I
chocolate
mean,
mousse. And so
Peter's kind of like that.
I
Peter's
know
like, you gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch them all.
You got Tabasco the Bull. Oh my gosh, I don't have that one because it was after the lawsuit. Anyway, it's not like that. Like, you can really make it whatever you want it to be, which makes it very accessible. And it looks like it can be daunting. It's really not. It's just whatever makes you feel good as a collector. I think I always say that, I don't always say, I've said it a few times, that collecting should be fun. We want it to be a fun hobby, and we want you to enjoy yourself. And
Mhm.
there's just a lot of people here that can help you enjoy collecting, which is awesome.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
like
like. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
so my the tagline I use, keep collecting, that a lot of that is what that means. It's keep collecting and keep collecting until you find what you want to collect. Just keep going at it. Finish your collection. So everything you said was is kind of all part of that. So I agree 100%.
That's kind of like mine is happy collecting, and I love that because it's fun. Like I do it because it makes me happy. Like I love book mail days. I love meeting people through the hobby. It's the same idea. It's so much fun.
Yeah, and I love that. I think what's cool is kind of looking at like all of us have kind of a different criteria for what we collect. I think Erik collects all of book 1 and whatever makes his soul happy, which
Yeah.
I think that's a real cool criterion to have. Carly's on like a wild journey to get everything, but does it in the weirdest order. She's like, ooh, this book 4 Hungarian Johnny Duddle cover art I'm just gonna buy it, even though I don't have any other Hungarian Johnny Duddle arts. I need that one, so let me just get that one
Specifically. Also, it was probably $10 chipped.
So whatever wild journey you're on, and then obviously Peter is like gotta catch them all.
I love Pokemon, and I loved the Beanie Baby reference too, because that's what started my collecting journey. Beanie Babies.
I know, isn't that like sick? Like if you look back,
crazy. Yeah,
I have so many. I have
like 300 in my parents' basement. Like it's so bad.
Did you watch the documentary?
Oh, it was the documentary was so good.
I watched it. It was great.
It
Those 3 women. Were they in Illinois?
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
like literally a town away from me.
They're hilarious.
They're so good.
Where's this documentary? I want to watch it.
I think it was on Max,
I think.
Really? All right. I'll write that down.
It's called Beanie Mania.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'll definitely watch it. I mean, I'm a 90s kid, so like Beanie Babies, Pokemon cards were my jam. That's what probably started my collector brain, and I have to get all of this brain, and I need to check things off a list brain, and that's why I'm at where I'm at. I mean, I feel like my criteria is different because I collect book 1 and unique cover art full sets. And I have like a lot of rules for what I do, but I feel like that goes exactly back to what Erik was saying. Like it's what I decide is something that I need, so I get it, or I don't. And I just add it to a list and hopefully check it off. And that's where I'm at. Well, this is like a pretty good question, is why did everyone decide to start collecting specifically like Harry Potter translations?
So for me, it started, I mean, again, as you mentioned, it's like you're a 90s kid, and that's kind of Beanie Babies and Pokemon cards is kind of what sparked your brain. That's the exact thing that happened to me. It sparked my collecting brain and my love for collecting. So when I became a Harry Potter fan, it was kind of a no-brainer that eventually if I discovered, oh my goodness, that there are different covers and different translations and languages that I would end up collecting Harry Potter books. So I went into a Borders bookstore, no longer exists. It used to be Barnes & Noble and Borders. So into a Borders bookstore and went to their foreign language translation section and found Italian. And my heritage is Italian. And the book cover had Harry Potter with a rat hat on and a rat laying next to him on a chessboard. And I picked it up, and right then was like, oh my goodness, like different countries and different cultures see Harry Potter differently. And that was, I think in 2001, right around when the movies came out, or the first movie came out. And then started researching online about different translations and seeing different cover artwork. And my journey started by just collecting the different covers, and then turned into collecting all of book 1. And I was very strict. It's like I would only collect the first book, which later changed. But yeah, so that's how I started collecting Harry Potter translations.
Yeah, I feel like Eric's story is like relatively similar to that. It was just like you just saw one and loved it and it's like, I gotta get more of
Yeah,
these.
before I was able to like have a job. So I was probably around 2001 also. Oh, that's such a great one. But my first other Harry Potter book, I've told this before, was the book one from the UK. Someone that we're family friends with is British, and he went home to see his family, and he came back and brought me a book because he knew I liked Harry Potter. And I was like, whoa, it's different. This is cool. And after that, I'm like, okay, well, what else is out there? And then we frequently go to Mexico, our family does. So I was in Mexico at the store, and my parents bought one in Spanish for me. That was really cool because that was the first, like, that was the third different cover art I had. There was the UK, US, and Spanish. And then pretty soon after that, I decided, like, hey, if anyone goes somewhere that might have a Harry Potter book, this is really cool for all the reasons that Peter described, right? Like other cultures see Harry Potter differently. That's so cool to me. And that was when I naively assumed that all the other languages that Harry Potter was in would have unique cover art, which took me like 7, 8, or 9 translations before I got one in Russian and was like, oh, I guess some of them just reused the American cover. Okay, whatever. But that was okay because I was already hooked by that point. I got a lot of the big early adopters like French, Finnish, Swedish, German, Danish even was pretty early on. Oh no, my Danish was not early on. Um, Dutch, I'm sorry, I got Dutch earlier on. So yeah, they were all unique until I got the Russian one, and those were all books that people were traveling on vacation and just brought back for
Awesome.
me because it was easy to get for them. Oftentimes, you could get them at the airport bookstore, like
Yeah,
where you're
yeah.
going,
Hmm.
super easy. And it's evolved since then. Like people have gone on missions and looked for a book for me. There's a lot of great stories, and I think that's what really keeps it exciting for me is that anywhere you go, you even if it's a book I have already, you can go to a bookstore and you're like, hey, there's some books over here. I'm gonna buy one, even though I have this one already, but I'm gonna get book two. Or I'm gonna get, Tales of Beetle the Bard or something that just kind of commemorates, hey, I was here, I was at a bookstore. And usually people are like, you don't speak Norwegian, why are you buying this book in Norwegian? And then you're like, hey, it's because I collect these books. And then you show them a picture and they're like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And you're like, yeah, I know, it is really cool. So it just sparks a lot of conversations. I also teach English to non-native English speakers. I'm a school teacher, so just the language aspect is so great. I have a lot of students this year that are refugees that are very literate in their L1, and I've been able to hook them up with Harry Potter books in their native language via really generous Discord members in our Discord that have extra copies. So that's just really cool to see kids
So cool.
love reading and fall in love with
Love that.
reading. I had a new to country student from Mexico 8 or 9 years ago that I let her borrow my 2 copies of Harry Potter in Spanish, and she like fell in love with them and got them from the public library. And now she's going to college, and she wrote me a letter that said, "Thank you for like introducing me to Harry Potter and help me learn English." Like, it's just so
That's
cool to
awesome.
It is
see
so
how
cool.
how these characters and how this story affects people all over the world. Like that's just so exciting. So that's why I love doing this podcast because it's just fun to talk about something that I just enjoy so much. I have such a level of nostalgia for it, and it's something that keeps coming out, and there's new stuff that keeps being released or maybe new translations that are coming out. So just a great way to stay connected to something that I grew up really loving.
Carly, what about you? How did you like start in your collecting journey?
With translations, I was very hesitant because I remember Peter. I've known Peter for quite a long time, since 2009. And I remember him talking about all of these translations. And I'm such a rare and signed book person that it was really hard for me to deviate. And I've got a master's in language and linguistics. So and I've traveled quite a bit. I love languages. But on my books, I tended to hyper focus on just rare and signed things. If it was a rare and signed translation, beautiful, it would count. If it was anything else, it didn't count. It was very simple rules. And now I don't know what happened. But and then so when I was doing my master's work, one of the languages that I did a lot of research on was Breton. And I loved that language. It's a Celtic language, and I've talked about it before. It's a really cool language. Anyway, I remember Peter mentioning that a Breton, and that kind of was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'd seen the covers and I like art, but it wasn't enough to hook me. It was the kind of the knowledge that Breton existed. It wasn't among the first translations that I got though. And I bought like 20 from Peter like just really, really quick, if I remember properly, just to get started. And if I liked it, I would keep it up. If I didn't, I wouldn't. And then that, does that make sense? And then I really loved it. And then I just kept right on going with it. And now my shelves have blown up. What started off as like one small display case of like rare and signed things. The rare and signed display case still exists, but so do like 12 other cases. Chock full of stuff. And I've been looking around to actually like what sets do I need to complete? How much? I don't know. There's a lot. And now I also quote unquote don't collect Beetle the Bard translations, but I secretly do.
I secretly do too. So that's okay.
I know we've discussed how we both
I know
don't
you and
do
I
that.
discussed that.
Oh, jeez Louise.
Carly,
And
I have
they're
to
made-
say,
Oh.
I take full credit for your translation transition
It's your
because
fault.
it is my fault because I kept telling you, Carly, no, you want to do this. This is so fun. And
It is. Yeah.
and then you finally bit the bullet, and now look at you.
I know. Well, and it's yeah.
I think it's great. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It is, and it is really fun. It's a lot, but it's really fun. And I wouldn't have met most of the people that I've met without doing the translations.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would know you and Adam, and because that's the rare and signed
No,
folk.
you would still know me because we
I
did
would know
not even
you.
meet about Harry Potter books. You and I met because we both had pets named Rubius Hagrid. And
You found me that way.
Yeah, I remember using a hashtag for like Rubius Hagrid pet or something along the lines of that on Instagram. And that's how I found Carly, even before she was All the Pretty Books. That was still when you were Gypsy Books, like way
I
back.
forgot about that. That's
Mhm.
back
I was
when I was
like,
just
oh
selling
my
random books on
gosh.
eBay.
Yeah, I was like, this girl's got a cat named Rubius Hagrid. I've got a dog named Rubius Hagrid. We should be friends. That's how.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy about it. And then it just turned into, oh wait, we both collect translations. Oh, you know Peter? I know Peter because he bought this German book that I wanted this one time, and it's fine. I have the German book
Stole
now,
it right
so
from
like
right from under your feet.
you did. I did it to you, or you did it to me. I did it to Erik. So
Yeah.
it just happens.
Yep.
That's what happens
And
in this
then
world.
Erik bought a book for me off eBay, I think. That's how we originally met.
Yes. And then I found Peter's website and was like, wow, why didn't I search for this earlier? Because this is what I'm doing.
And I
messaged
met
you,
Peter. Yeah.
I think I messaged Peter and was like, hey, I have an Asturian book. And you're like, whoa, you do, huh? And I just bought the book, the Greenlandic book on eBay. And then I bought one from Peter in Nepali like 3 days later. It was an expensive week for me.
Yes.
Thankfully,
like
though,
it.
thankfully you weren't purchasing those 3 books now.
No, exactly.
Then it would be a
No.
crazy expensive week
That'd
for
be
you.
a
Oh,
crazy
boy.
expensive week. But no, then I just found Melanie through Carly, I think.
Yeah.
She
I
also
think
had a
so.
Just through
website.
Instagram community,
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
What about you,
But
Mel?
yeah.
How did you start?
I feel like I tell the story like a bit. I mean, I remember a friend of mine in high school, sitting down with a new Harry Potter book, and she just mentioned something like, "Oh yeah, I have new copy of." I think it was Half Blood Prince at the time, and her saying, "I just got Half Blood Prince, but I can't wait for my UK edition to come." And I was like, "Why do you want a UK edition if it's pretty much the same?" She's like, "Oh, well, they have different cover art." And I was like, "That's cool. That's going to be like a bullet point in my brain for quite some time, as it still is." And then I think years later, once I like fell in love with Harry Potter all over again, I got the UK editions for myself. Then I started the same thing like, hey, if you're going blah, 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 go get me a Harry Potter book. And I thought of that idea because I went on birthright. I went to Israel, and I remember seeing Harry Potter books in the windows in bookstores in Hebrew, and just thought how cool that was. And I didn't buy one at the time, which I regret, but don't at the same time. My parents bought me back a book from Italy. It was like a signature edition paperback Italian book, which I guess was like my first translation. It wasn't like the first translation that like sparked everything in me. That was my Hebrew book, and that's the book that was the first translation that I bought abroad on my own. Was my Hebrew book. That's this guy, like this one right
I
here.
love the Hebrew book with the silver on it. I think it's so pretty, like at the top corner.
And I love all of the Hebrew books just in that they all use such like a bold foiling color just across the whole series. They all kind of do that. Look at this. Eric's
Yeah,
got
it's really
one. Peter's got one.
There it
Look at
is.
that. It's a beautiful book. And the fact that I bought this on my own in Israel is like the coolest thing. It's my most sentimental book, I think. I think we did this for like a translation of the show, like my first episode.
I think so.
Yeah, way back when. So we mentioned that book. I think we should go back and talk about like our other significant books super quick. Like Carly, you mentioned Breton, which it was like super influential in your life. We like have all of these. Ooh,
Yeah.
Breton is really shiny.
It's really shiny. Whoa.
And it looks like a treasure chest. The art is like it's unique art only to Breton. And it looks like they've never seen a Harry Potter book when they designed it, but I like it.
But they had seen a book.
They had seen a manuscript for it.
Yes.
I don't know if they've seen cover art, but it's certainly a thing.
It is a really cool one. I know.
And
I
I've
love
heard Breton
Breton
3 is coming out.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
I would get that.
Yeah, and which is good for those still looking for Breton book 1 because they'll probably reprint 1 and 2 when they do that.
Oh, that's really cool. Good to know. And then Erik mentioned this book. This is the Finnish book.
This is the Finnish book.
Do we all have pre-movie? That's exciting.
I do. This isn't
I do.
The one that I got first was the movie font. Someone went to Helsinki and brought it back for me. I think it was my uncle. But this was one of the first ones, along with like Italian and French, that I got. And I was like, whoa, baby, this is something special. Like, look at this thing. What's going on with their noses?
Look at those conchs.
Why are the chess pieces so huge and also have large noses? Why does
that one have a mallet?
Have a huge nose also, like in a golden apple? Like, what's going on? Like, it was just so cool to me. Like, this is almost like in like the Italian book that Peter mentioned this was like almost a disbelief moment. Like, wait a second, like this is actually what the book looks like in Finland. Like, they all see this and they're like, I love it. That's my favorite. And it's just so weird looking to us that are used to the Mary Grand Prix book.
What's crazy about this book is this is the one that made me want to collect full sets of cover art.
Yes, this is one of the ones.
Because I love it so much. It's so funny.
I collect book 1 and whatever makes my soul happy. I have a full set of these because they make my soul happy. There's just something about the art that's so just
whimsical.
Like it's whimsical, but it just like draws you to the book, especially when you get to like
all
book
of them
5
are that delightful.
with the Umbridge frog. Like, it's just or a toad. It's crazy.
They're fantastic.
Along with the Swedish, like this is one that you could get and just have on your shelf, and you don't need all of them. You just need one, and people are like, "What is that?" And you're like, "Let me tell you, it's from Finland." That's how you say it too.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you got to say. And the last book
mine has stickers. I bought a used copy. Some kid put Harry Potter stickers.
I love that. I love when I have like little crayon drawings and that, like stuff like that in it.
This kid.
Who's that?
I don't know how to say his name. Juho. Hala. I have your book.
As long as they know how to say it.
and your stickers.
I have your book. Thanks for the stickers.
Thanks for the stickers.
Well, I think the last book that we need to talk about is Peter's book that started him on his translation collection journey. And we're going to talk about that book a little bit more in depth for our translation of the show.
Like the horn or whatever, those horns.
Yeah.
Yes.
A
The air
vuvuzela.
horn.
It's a sound effect in the Discord chat that you can do,
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
but only the people in the Discord can hear it. So it's kind of like,
We do it
Tommy
just for us.
Tommy can add sound effects too. He does occasionally. It's very enjoyable.
My translation of the show is Italian. This guy right here, we love this guy. I love this book. I think Peter and I, when I bought this book, we spent a little bit of time discussing how interesting the artwork was, if I remember properly. I think it was like 2015 for me when I got it. Maybe 16. I don't know. But anyway, the translator is Marina Astrologo. It's published by Adriano Solani, Editore, or Solani is how us collectors refer to it. And some really fun things about Italian. Not only is it a super amazing language, it is a Latin language, which means it's a Romance language, and it is out of the Indo-European language family that evolved from Vulgar Latin, which is also, I love Vulgar Latin. My voicemail is in Latin right now. And together with Sardinian Latin is spoken by about 95 million-ish people. Is that first and second language or just first? Like L1? I don't know. 67 million Latin native language speakers. So about 25 million L2. I expected a bit more L2 actually.
For Italian, it's
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems about right though.
But I also know a lot of Italian speakers, so I think that's why I think it feels like it should be more to me. Is my friend base skews oddly toward Latin as a second language, which is whatever. Anyway,
Latin or Italian?
Well, actually, Latin or Italian.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm thinking Latin. Italian is an official language in Italy, San Marino, and Switzerland, and the primary language of the Vatican City. It has an official minority status in Croatia and some parts of Slovenian Istria. There we go.
there you go.
So I think this is actually a good thing to discuss because as far as like how hard is this book to get today, I think that's very good. How hard is just book one Latin to get?
Italian.
Well, sorry. I'll
Nice.
get there one day. How hard is this one to get, the Italian to get, like in the original cover?
Not hard. The original
Right.
cover?
I would
If
say
you-
like a
Just-
1.5, just because there are so many. The half is because there are so many out there. But it's no longer being printed. But you may,
Right.
I guess technically the 20th anniversary are probably still available in stores, but which has the same cover artwork.
Just
But
no
if you wanted,
jacket.
if you wanted the original, you would have to go on like ebay.it, which is Italian eBay. So it's one little step where you have to use Google Chrome to translate the page, to purchase the book, to have it shipped to you. So it's like just a teeny tiny little step, but it's not a hard book to find whatsoever.
And the reason I point that out is because there's been a lot of like first dates popping up for sale. And I'm worried that at some point people may see that, not realize why it's a first date and why it's rare. And I don't want it to start becoming that all, pre-movie Italian or original cover art Italian are that book, because they're not.
There's so many different versions. Like I was asking Peter before when I was like typing up our notes, I was like, okay, so which version of the Italian book? And he's like, oh, just the original cover art. And I'm like, okay, so is it the one with the blue boards? Is it the one with like the storybook boards? Is it the one with pre-movie font? There are so many just versions of this original cover. There's also the anniversary edition that also has this cover art as well. So
Yep.
if
And
you
there's
like
a
this
soft
art,
cover.
that's very what's the word? Accessible. That's very accessible. If you want to get this cover art and you're having a hard time finding this specific book, which this one that we were talking about, this one has the blue boards. But the anniversary edition is also very accessible. Whereas the First State, which we've talked about previously on this podcast, which that's the one with Harry not wearing the glasses. It's a completely different pre-movie font that's on the cover as well. That's a really hard to find book, a really valuable book. That's not this book, if that makes sense.
Right. It does. Rarity, I think we just discussed. What about value
of this specific book?
Yeah, I think like mine's a pre-movie. The one that I have is the pre-movie version.
But it's a paperback.
No, mine is soft.
Oh, it's hardcover? Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, who has a paperback?
You sold it to me.
Who has a hard? I should buy it back because I. Wait, that might be my original. That might be my original book.
No way.
No. I don't think so.
It's not? Okay, I just want to make sure.
No. Because I did buy it. I did buy your Italian from you. It was your Italian pre-movie. I bought it off you. And then about a year later, you're like, hey, Carly, blah, blah, blah. That was my first translation. Can we trade it back for something? So we traded it back.
Oh, okay.
So that's how you got your book back.
But I don't have that book.
I bought this from eBay.
I
bought this one from you. You sold me this book to so you could get your book back. You
I sold you this one first.
You sold me this one.
Whew, that scared me.
So yeah, you sold me the one that I have now, which is a pre-movie with red boards.
Which, honestly, Carly, like, good job on that
She
deal.
got the better deal. Yeah, totally. She got the better end of the bargain.
Right.
You even said that it's the bargain.
I mean, value-wise, like I sold one of those pre-movie books, I think for probably like $100, like $75, $100 if you're doing like that pre-movie font. But like these guys, I wouldn't expect to pay more than like 25.
I'm thinking 30.
Yeah.
These are available in soft cover as well. Like you can find this cover art in soft too. So
you can find this cover art wherever, but specifically this one with the blue boards, this guy. Yeah, I would say
30, 25, 30.
Yeah, 25, $30. Nothing bad.
So they're not rare and they're not super valuable, which is I think important, especially with as we're seeing more. I feel like we're seeing a little bit more first dates popping up for sale for a lot of money.
Well, that just goes to show that like exactly what we talked about with this hobby, right? If whatever you want it to be, you can go as cheap and as surface level as you want, or you can go really deep and you want the first print, first edition Italian that is worth a lot of money because it's a rare book. Or let's say you just want to read a book in Italian. It's easy to get. Let's say you just want this cover art. It's easy to get. Let's say you want the blue boards. It might be a little bit more difficult to get, but still not impossible. Like there's different levels that you can.
It just depends on how picky you want to be.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So I guess we can do the tot scale.
I think we should. I think that would be good.
I think you should explain what the tot scale is, Carly.
Also, tots is translation of the show. So if this is your first time listening and you keep hearing us say tots, that's what we're talking about. We're all about the tots. The tots is the translation of the show, which we talk about.
Not food. Tots are good though, but
we love tots.
But we also love tots, translations of the show.
So our tot scale or translation of the show scale is just kind of a scale that we put the book through. Erik mentioned smelling it. We smell the book. That's the first thing that we do. We also discuss different things about the book that we like and the X factor, basically.
Yeah, we rate
and it kind of helps. Yeah, it kind of helps grade the book on equal footing or keep books on equal footing. Like you can love the cover art of a book, but it may not be so well in how it smells or how it feels in your hand or other ratings from that. So yeah, that's what we do.
Let's sniff it.
I love that idea.
I would give it just an acceptable. I'm going to go ahead and say. I think it has like kind of a smell, especially if you get like deep into where the spine is. You can smell the glue a lot.
What
but
page
other
are
than-
you on?
128.
That
Does
smells like
yours have
chocolate.
the? Does
It
yours
smells
have
like chocolate. That's
the?
It does. It smells like chocolate.
Huh.
Mine doesn't.
Does yours have the internal illustrations in it?
Yes.
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 I love those.
Ooh, I'm going to go to one of those pages because maybe it smells more like
133.
inky.
133.
Oh, I was almost there. Let's see. Okay.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Professor Quirrell.
I'm gonna stick with acceptable.
Oh, no, that's probably Snape.
I think that's Snape.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Hard-
yikes!
Hard to tell.
The turban confused me,
I
it's
know.
somebody.
Same. Also, yikes.
but definitely potions class.
I give it an acceptable also. It doesn't do a whole lot for me, honestly, but it's not bad. I just don't love the smell, so it's fine. It's acceptable.
Mine exceeds expectations. Mine smells like a Payless shoe source, and it's
Whoa.
delightful.
And you like Payless
okay.
shoe stores.
I do.
Yeah, I would say acceptable as well. Even though that one
Mine
page
was-
smelt like chocolate.
That's lovely.
I had a book that smelled like chocolate too. Melanie, do you remember talking about that?
I don't remember which book it was though.
And both of our books smelled like chocolate for some
yeah,
reason.
I do remember that, but I don't remember which book it was.
I don't
which is a
remember
real
either.
shame. That's a
Hmm.
shame.
What do we think of the size and proportions?
I think it's an absolutely perfectly sized book, in my opinion. I mean, it feels great in the hand. The font is lovely,
Ooh.
easy to read.
Peter just committed Dialogue Alley taboo by saying
Oh,
how
no.
it feels in your hand during
We're
the
not
size
there
and
yet.
proportions.
Oh, sorry. Bomp bomp.
Yeah, we-
I'm just
we're
so used
all-
to that.
We're
like,
all guilty
when
of
I-
that.
When I review
we've all
wands, it's
done
like
it.
I always talk about how it feels in the hand, But I haven't got.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I jumped a category.
You jumped the rubric.
That's it. This partnership
off.
is over. You
Over.
guys are
We're
like,
done.
no, we're not doing
We're no
it.
longer interested. Sorry.
We're like-
The deal's off.
We're taking the deal off the table, Peter. Sorry.
No. Nah, it's okay. We forgive you. First
Oh,
offense
thanks,
is
guys.
on us.
What would you give
Okay.
it then for size and proportion?
Well, I still like the size of it and the proportions. I would say outstanding.
Ooh,
I would go outstanding. I love everything about the size and proportions of this book. I like how cute it was. In fact, I remember when I bought it, I remember thinking how cute it was because it was shorter than the US books that I had, and shorter than, I think that was it. I didn't have many translations, I think, when this guy showed up. So I liked it. It's outstanding for me.
I'm gonna just go exceeds expectations.
Uh-huh.
Just because I usually like my outstanding books to kind of like stand out a bit more. Like for me, Lithuanian is an outstanding because it's so big, or I love the Czech book is an outstanding because it's so like tiny. This one is very like, I like how small this book is, and it does feel very cute. That's a very good word for it, but it just doesn't have that like above and beyond stand outish quality. I'm gonna give this one.
I'm agreeing with Melanie. I'm giving it an E. I like it a lot, but to me, it's thin. Like I wish it was just a little bit heftier.
Oh, I love
Like
how
a
thin
little
it
bit
is.
thicker. I just wish
a
it was
little
a
more
little bit
stout.
thicker. But it's still a great book. It's really great. Exceeds expectations. A great score, unless you're Hermione Granger.
True,
Accurate statement.
Now, going to where Peter was, how does it feel in your hand?
Outstanding.
I'm gonna actually say the same, because I love how the jacket feels in my hand. Like I love how smooth the jacket is, and then if I were to take the jacket off, because I don't want to ruin it, if I were to read it, I like how the red boards, they're kind of textured. I like how they feel. They're not smooth, but they are textured, so I can get a firm grip to hold on to it to read. If I were to flick the book open to read, I could read it pretty easily. Like, it's just an overall, it feels good in my hand. And
To me,
I
this
like
feels.
how thin it is.
To me, this just feels like. I mean, I don't speak or read Italian, but it feels like the perfect sit on a park bench or sit on the beach book. Like, it's not too big, it's not too small.
And it would fit in a bag.
Fits in a bag, fits in your hand great. I love it. I love it.
I think I'll go outstanding as well for how it feels in your hand. I love the texture of the jacket. Like, the jacket is just so smooth. And it's not that like fingerprinty kind of texture as well. Like, it's just a soft cover, which I think is really nice. I'm looking at a different book from Carly. So mine have this like blue glossy boards. But even that is like a really cool texture in your hand. I kind of like that. It like would stick and grip into your hands really well if you did take off the jacket. Yeah, how it feels in your hands, I will give it an outstanding.
I'm going outstanding. I like the cover. I like how the jacket feels. My boards, I have the fairy tale one, which I love because
I love those
the
boards.
texture is different, like on the spine versus the book part. I think that's so fun. Because really, you don't have to detail a book like this if it has a dust jacket. Most books with a dust jacket just are like snooze fest underneath, right? Maybe there's two colors. Maybe there's like, the US ones, there's a diamond pattern. But
Ooh, fancy.
no, this one's like a whole nother book cover underneath this book
It's
cover.
really cool. I love that one.
And if you have all 7, they write a word.
Ooh.
On the spine.
They write your name.
What I forget what the word is, but it's like a spell.
Starts with DRA.
Oh, it's the
like
motto.
the
It's the motto. It's the motto.
The Hogwarts motto. Yeah.
Yep.
That is cool.
That's super cool. So how it feels, I love it. It's a great jacket on a book. It's a good weight. Love it. Outstanding for me.
And quality, I'm gonna say outstanding. My jacket is handled my jacket hasn't torn very easily. Like, it's still pretty good, although I don't put mine through a lot, but it feels like a nice thick jacket. And my boards are nice. And I dropped this book on my foot earlier and it didn't ding. My foot hurts a lot, actually.
Oh, jeez.
And it really hurt, but the book survived beautifully. So outstanding here. Anyone else?
I'll go. I'm gonna give the quality no, I feel like I could give it no. I'm going exceeds expectations. I love the jacket is very sharp. It stays that way very nicely. I don't know if it's gonna differ from like the first state book. Like, my first state book has the most beautiful jacket, but the book itself has absolutely fallen apart. The spine on this one for me is like a little bit wiggly, so that's why I would give it an exceeds expectations. Like, I noticed it before. I was like holding the book like this and I was like, oh, my spine's like a little wiggly.
Mine's stout, like it doesn't move.
Yeah, I don't know. Exceeds expectations for this book right here.
There's your little notation where it says Italian, Peter.
Oh, fun. Yeah, I write little like notations.
That's a cute little Peter nod.
I would say outstanding. I would say exceeds expectations if it didn't have the illustrations on the inside, which I think is part of the quality of the book. But the illustrations bump it up to outstanding for me. I agree with Erik that the page thickness could be slightly thicker, but so that's what would make it exceeds expectations if there were no illustrations. But because there are illustrations, I think that brings the quality up to outstanding.
Good call.
I was going to say exceeds expectations, but then you had to bring up the illustrations on the inside. And now I'm wondering, should I now say? And especially, man, I'm going to talk about this in my X Factor, but there's one illustration in particular that I'm like, this just does it for me right here. This is the one. I'll go outstanding too. Like, again, this is just a cool book to have and to show people. It's so different than what we grew up with that
Hmm.
it's just worth having if you like Harry Potter.
I agree entirely. It's a neat shelf piece, whether you collect translations or not.
What about this very famous cover artwork and interpretation of this cover artwork?
I mean, I am giving it an outstanding just because of like nostalgia. I feel like this cover art is so iconic. You
Yes.
see this and it's when you type in like Harry Potter covers from around the world, this comes up. Like this is one of the first books that you'll see when you see that. And I just think the mystery of like, why is there a rat? Why is he wearing a rat hat? Why are there little chess people? Like all of the questions that I have, even there's a little mouse like on the back wearing a hat. Why? I don't know, but I love it.
But I don't think Serena even knows. I think wasn't there an interview with her where she said she just did it? So she didn't even pull from the book, which is hysterical.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
I love that.
Talk about like no spoilers. We talked about US Chamber of Secrets last episode and the cover and how like once you read the book, you're like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, there's a snake and
Yeah.
a phoenix and
Yeah.
he's got the sword and
Yep.
Ginny's there. Why is Ginny there? Where's Hermione?
Yep.
Like once you know the answer,
yeah.
duh, this book tells you absolutely nothing about what's to come. In
And yeah,
fact-
if you
You've got
buy
no
this
idea.
book wanting, you buy
In
this book
fact-
wanting to know about giant rats, you're going to be disappointed.
This to me, right? If you saw this at the store, you'd be like, okay, it's about chess. But is it like
A boy plays
is it like a
chess?
boy playing chess? Is it like animals playing chess?
Is it a hybrid rat
Is it a-
boy playing chess?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
What are the stakes of these chess matches they're playing? Is it like, are the rat people gonna rule the world if they win? Are the humans gonna stay in control if they win? You don't know. And the back doesn't help either. It's like just a big tail, and then there's like this kid with a big red hat on. You're like, what is that tall red hat? You have no idea. So I give it an outstanding for just the fact that it exists. Carly and I talked about this before Melanie even joined. She was still a brand new mama. And this was the first translation of the show that we talked about way back in like
Mhm.
episode 2. And it's so bizarre that you can't not like it. Like, even
Right.
if you hate it, you like it because it's so crazy.
It's wild.
It's so weird. Yeah. Yeah.
I
yeah.
agree with both of you on that front. So cover art, outstanding. Interpretation of cover art, I give it a troll.
It got nothing.
It's
It got nothing
it's,
right.
It's terrible. It's
She didn't
absolutely terrible.
interpret. If she
Yeah,
didn't interpret
so
anything, she just did it.
It's lower than troll, but again, it probably arguably is the most iconic cover art, translation cover art. I don't know which one would beat it.
I would say Swedish is one
Swedish
that
or-
shows up.
Or
Swedish,
German.
German. Yeah, German
I would
shows
say
up quite a bit.
French.
maybe German, but when you think about them, like which one do you think
Just
about?
in Google,
Right.
just in Google searches, I was just
I'm gonna
going
go
by
look.
like if I were to Google Harry Potter cover art, which I've done before, Italian always shows up, as does the Swedish and the German. Those three I can always count on to show up in images.
The first one, when you look at it, is Swedish. Swedish is the first one. Spanish comes up a lot too. Yeah, like the first,
I guess
first big
Spanish
image.
would be a good one. Yeah,
Spanish,
Yeah.
Ukrainian also.
Oh yeah.
It's very iconic.
I think whenever
Um,
you see like a collage of 4 or 5 translations in
Yeah.
an article, this one's always there. It
You
might
know
not
what's
be
really
like the
funny?
front, but it's always there because they usually try to pick 4 or 5 cover arts that are totally different from each other. So like
Mhm.
this one in Swedish, totally different.
What's funny is I literally just Googled Harry Potter cover art around the world, and there are so many of those collages like what you're talking about, and
Yeah.
I only see one that has this cover.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's
what's
just like,
crazy though is as
what's
we
that effect?
transition kind of away from the original cover art, because now we're seeing new interpretations of cover artwork and more digital cover artwork.
Mhm.
So I feel like these might fizzle out a bit, which is kind of sad.
Well, but Albanian just released, well, a few years ago anyway, released a book, like a set of 1 through 7 featuring the original Italian covers. So you can also get these on Albania now.
Albanians, they just copy everybody
take-
else.
They take everybody's-
Germans, the Italians.
All right. Well,
Subtle.
with this book having such like a unique factor to itself with its cover art, what would everybody's X factor be?
The artwork.
The artwork.
Yeah.
The
It's
artwork.
100% the artwork for
Internal
me.
illustrations,
Inside-
the artwork.
Yeah, inside and outside. The illustrations
Yeah.
are just
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little bit more specific into the internal illustrations and say that my X factor is the fact that in majority of the images of Harry, he's not wearing his glasses in the internal images. And
Oh,
that's
interesting.
still carried over
Yeah.
from that first state. And I love that. And it's
Yeah.
more so towards the back of the book, but he's not wearing glasses and I love it. I just think that it's like, I feel like it's like a nod to translation collectors who know that the first state, Harry was not wearing glasses.
Right.
I love that.
Very cool.
It's 133. He has glasses.
he does.
Yeah, but like
But
towards,
the majority of them he doesn't. So that's so
Yeah.
cool.
I love that.
Might I, before we move on, draw your attention to page 169, which is the troll in the bathroom scene. And the bathroom's got this wallpaper on it, and the toilet looks really nice. It's got like a wooden seat.
It's like a little carpet around the toilet.
It, like it looks like a dollhouse. Like
It
I don't
does.
know. It doesn't look like a magical castle in the northern part of the UK.
I love that.
No, it just looks like the troll is so out of place in that picture.
It's
But
very
whatever.
cool.
Also,
The toilet's
I
got a
also
little
really
fuzzy like mat around it. Like
yeah.
And why? I don't know. Because
And a toilet brush holder next to the toilet. Like
Yeah.
that's fancy.
Could you not just use magic to clean the toilets?
You would
Yeah,
think.
you would think.
Could
well,
you not
you've got
just
the
use-
house elves.
Little
Why do
Skirtify?
they need plumbing and pipes in book 2?
Exactly.
Didn't
And why do they need
wasn't
pipes
a
that are
whole
like
thing?
this big for giant snakes to crawl in? Like who installed these things?
I don't wizards. Am I right?
I guess.
Okay. Sorry. I
No.
think that's it. That's the translation of the show.
That's what we do here.
Great segue, Carly.
I
Yeah,
was
that was-
looking at
that was
internal
good.
illustrations. I was busy.
She got
Sorry.
distracted.
I did. I
Oh.
really did. I forgot for a second what we're doing and looking at pictures. But yeah,
Oh.
that's the translation of the show.
So that is all the time we have today on Dialogue Alley. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to get in touch with any of us, you can do so. We're all on Instagram. Carly is at All the Pretty Books. I am at Nocturne Erik. Melanie is at the Harry Potter Collection. And Peter is, of course, at The Potter Collector. You can also follow this podcast specifically on Instagram. It is at Dialogue Alley Podcast. You can also check out some great websites. Carly has one, alltheprettybooks.net. Peter has one, thepottercollector.com. We have one, dialoguealley.com. And there's probably another .com somewhere, but that's the only 3 that we're going to tell you about right now. And we can also direct you to some other social media websites. We have a Twitter, which is now called X. We have a Facebook page. Melanie is on TikTok at Magically Melanie. Peter puts fantastic video content on his YouTube channel, The Potter Collector. Not just about books, but about everything Harry Potter related. And like we mentioned before, remodeling his house or performing in the
Cruise
show.
info.
You never know. You never know what's going to show up there. That's why it's so wildly entertaining. You can also find this show wherever you're listening to it right now. But if you're just listening to us online somewhere or watching on YouTube, you can take us with you in your car or wherever you go on your phone, on Apple Podcasts, on Google, on Spotify, on Pandora, on iHeart. We're on all the places. Just search for Dialogue Alley and you will find us. Somewhere that we are also on is Patreon. We have a Patreon if you want to support our podcast a little bit more. If you subscribe, you get access to cool things such as our Discord, where we can talk about collecting and just translations more in general. You can also get bonus episodes, early access to our episodes, and ad-free episodes. But I know that Peter likes to listen to the Menards and O'Reilly Auto Parts ads just as much as I do.
O'Reilly.
That was the first ad that
Auto
came up
Parts.
on mine on the first episode we had with ads, and I was like, yes, this is great. So that's just a great perk of supporting us on Patreon. But if you're just listening to us or watching us on YouTube, fantastic. Thank you so much for discovering us. We love doing this. That's why we do it. And we love it so much that we joined up with Peter because now we are the official Potter Collector podcast. Yay,
Woohoo.
Dialogue Alley.
So
Yay!
exciting.
Yay.
I'm so happy.
Yay.
Me too.
Well, Peter, thank you for joining us again.
Thank
We're
you
look-
for having me, and I look forward to being on more often.
Yeah, well, and we
Us
look
too.
forward to that too. It's going to be great. And with all of that being said, it's time to walk back through the archway and into all of our daily lives, and we'll catch you next time on Dialogue Alley. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.